hello to everyone who's joined so far. Thank you for being our time. It's our pleasure to have all of you here. This conference was made out of two main reasons. First of them is that we managed to sell basically the whole first batch of Escape from Site 19, which is the first 500 games. And the second reason is that we wanted to give all of you like a pre-Christmas occasion to meet us at least virtually like this, because it would be like really complicated to meet in person. So yeah, I mean, we're really happy that so many of you are already joining. Thank you for that. This meeting will also be a lot about us answering your questions. So the first part will be basically an introduction from our part. We will all one by one introduce what our role on the team is and how we contributed. Some of the team members have also prepared some stories or some pictures that they that maybe hold a special place in their heart. So you can look forward to that. And just so that you know, in case anyone has any questions ready, you know that you can that you would like to ask us this question, you can already start typing them into the chat. And also we're curious to know where you're connecting from. So you can just type into the chat where you come from, whether it's the US, whether it's morning for you, or whether it's Saturday evening. So yeah, you can just, Illinois, nice. Cool, so you can just start typing into the chat whatever comes to your mind. And we'll just start with our introductions. So maybe if I spoke enough, I'll just start so that you know who I am and why am I speaking. So I'm Julia, and my responsibility is basically everything related to marketing and PR activities on the team. I am responsible for watching over my amazing marketing team who is posting on social media, over the influencers that are sponsoring the game via their YouTube videos, and also for coming up with ideas such as this conference. So in case anyone thinks it really sucks, I'm the one you should reproach for it. But I hope that you will all enjoy it and that you will learn something new and interesting. So yeah, thanks again for being here tonight. Thank you for having joined on time, and I guess we can kick off the introductions. So I'll first pass the word on to Kamil. Kamil, you can begin. Oh, and sorry, I forgot to mention that this whole meeting is going to be recorded. So just so that you know, I'm telling it already now in case anyone minds it for whatever reason. You can leave, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for everyone. It's going to be available afterwards for you to watch. So Kamil, it's yours.
All right, thank you, Julia. Good morning or good evening, everyone. My name is Kamil, and I'm the lead developer on EFS19, and I'll have a short presentation about the history of the game. So I'll pass it on to Anička. Anička, if you would.
Yes, hi everyone, my name is Anna, and I am one of the game developers on EFS19. I forgot who's after me, sorry, I think it's Leonard.
Yeah, okay, so hi guys, my name is Leonard. In case you couldn't tell from my accent, I'm French. I worked on the game on EFS19 for 2 months as an intern 2 years ago during the summer of 2019, and afterwards for an entire year from France. So back then I was working on the production of promotional content for the game, like trailers, behind the scenes videos, an interview of the developers. So yeah, that's me who recorded it and wrote it and edited it afterwards. And also I had a role as a kind of SCP Universe consultant since I'm a former admin of the French branch of the SCP Foundation. That's also a reason why I was recruited into the team, because I got some knowledge of the SCP Universe and I wrote some articles. So I brought that knowledge with me to the team for those 2 months and the year afterwards. Okay.
Okay, hi, my name is Peter. I am from Czech and I am the game designer and game mechanics developer of the team. I joined the team about 2, maybe 3 years ago. I don't remember anymore. And yeah, I was working on some key mechanics of the game, and as a part of being a game developer for board games, I'm also a developer of computer games. So that's my main. What? Oh, sorry. That's my main occupation at the moment. So I pass the word to, I forgot who is next.
Kryštof is next.
Me. Yes. Okay. Thank you for your word. I'm Kryštof. I work in Escape from Site-19 team as a graphic designer. My main point of work was making pictures for the cards, and also I was helping with some behind the scenes videos and so on. So that's it.
Yeah, I think it's me. Hello, I'm Sam. I worked as the proofreader of the English translation of the manual and the cards. As time went on, I got involved a bit with some more creative content, with writing some of the flavor texts on the cards. And actually, I'd forgotten about this until today, but I've actually not met anybody in face-to-face in the team, because I've been in England, apart from Léonard, who I did meet, and was a strange one-off thing that I thought was going to just peter out into nothing, which is I answered a call to do a voiceover for a film about some monsters maybe, and I thought it sounds interesting, and went along and recorded a sort of very brief voiceover for Léonard's film, which essentially, I guess, got my foot in the door.
Yeah. Okay. So next one is Karolína, and I'll just like to alert that this is going to be a bit special because she prepared her presentation in Czech, and so I'll just be like, so that no one misses out, I'll be just translating that into English real quick. So Kájo, můžeš prosím tě.
Dobře. Takže ahoj, já jsem Kája a pracuji jako ilustrátor a grafik.
I'm another of the illustrators and graphic designers.
K tomu jsem se připojila asi před 2 rokama, 3 možná už, a mým úkolem vlastně je vytvářet ilustrace ke kartám a k obrázkům na základě dokumentů a příběhů té karty.
And I joined the team like 2 or 3 years ago, and my job is to create illustrations based on the SCP stories.
To je asi všechno.
Okay, so this was the introduction of all the members of the team, and now I guess I will return the word back to Kamil, who would like to talk about the history of the project and about how the game came to be.
All right, thank you. I'll share my screen in a minute. All right, so do you see my presentation? Could you confirm, please? Okay, cool. So, good morning and good evening, everyone, again. My name is Kamil, and I'll have a brief medallion about the history of EFS19, since I'm one of the longest serving members of the team, actually the co-founder. So I suppose I can share some light on the behind the scenes stuff that happened around the game and how exactly it was created. So you might have saw Escape from Site 19, or you might have already bought it, but on the face value it doesn't really say much about how much work went into it, and how, I would say fairly, how humbly did it all begin. And it's quite a ride, so stay with me. So in May 2013, or maybe it was April, the project was created. The first idea was born. And why? Well, a year ago, I discovered SCP Foundation. I think it was on some weird website like Funny Junk or something, and I saw some of the SCP documents. So I said, this is intriguing. And I started reading up on it, and it really got my attention. I remember reading the document with SCP-176 with Abel, and there was this screen like, do you want to access this terminal? Like, if you're unauthorized or something, that'd be pretty bad. And I was really scared. So it was a pretty good introduction to the whole phenomena. And as I read it, I shared it with my friend Michal, and he was like, okay, cool, I liked it. So why exactly am I sharing these weird photos? Well, these are the photos of a local tea house here in Prague, of Duhová čajovna. And on this exact place, as you can see on the photo on the right, Michal asked me a question. Okay, do you know how we're reading all these SCP files? So how about we make a board game? How about we make an extreme board game from the SCP universe, where players will actually fight the SCPs and contain them by doing hard physical and mental tasks with a lot of roleplay? And I was like, okay. I mean, I didn't know better, but it seemed like a really great idea back in the day. It still is. So I would say that's how it really kicked off. We weren't like a big company with like a huge concept or anything. We were just two guys that read a lot about SCPs, and yeah, the board game seemed like a really great idea. So we started to work, and we made our first SCP tasks. I think one of the main one, or the first one, was the statue 173 and its tasks and its task. The second one, oddly enough, was 012, bad composition, the one with notes in your blood. So it's actually pretty funny that actually these two cards that were at the beginning actually made it to the final game. So it went on, and we read the SCPs and just moved forward at our own pace. We created a fake photo shoot, so that we seemed like this big board game team, and we were just two guys that were just figuring out the stuff. So these are our friends, and we really published it so it looks like, it's like a big team. So no, everything was fake, and I still think it's kind of funny because those are some really good photos. And it's actually pretty sad that there wasn't more of us at the start, but that all got fixed as we progressed throughout the years. So I would say that after the first year, we got some basic concepts. We got the ideas for the SCP-001s, which were actually Mike's ideas, and we were really good. So the SCP-0001 ideas are like the final bosses in the game, right? So there's like 11 of them, and no, When Day Breaks is not there because the game is from the first 2 seasons, but it might actually be there one day. So we got the characters, some of the tasks, we moved on, and we started photo shooting. On the left side, you'll see one of the early card designs that Michal has made. It has a Czech flavor text, but it's actually very similar to the English one. We shot real-life photographs, and there might be a good question like, why real-life photographs? So, as you might already know, all of the cards in the game have real-life photographs, or like very good realistic photo montages made by Kaya, Kryštof, and some of the others. So why did we decide to make photographs instead of pictures? Well, one of the ideas behind the game is that it should be realistic, right? it happens in real life, like an escape game, but in the form of board game and with like a really huge replayability. So we're mainly betting on the atmosphere that the players ought to create, and for this, because the SCP files were like very realistic, I mean, it may be real. So we decided to create realistic photos to enhance the atmosphere. So what you see is the old man, 1440, the guy who carries around, you know, bad stuff, and the Sirens, 1400, the guy with the mask that wants you to take it off, and Evolution's Child, SCP-40. And we began the tests. We actually began the early beta tests like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago or so, just to have an idea of how the game is gonna work. The first game were like really coarse, like we didn't even have the lockdown system, so there was no lose condition. Players returned on the checkpoints all the time, and we quickly realized that it would be pretty boring if there wasn't like a lose condition. So we added the lockdowns, then we added the characters to enhance the roleplay setting. We have actually shortened the board many times. I think the game started with like 80 squares or something. It was like really long. So the game has now like 48 squares that you go through. So a lot of stuff were changed on the game, but the idea remained the same. Players have to make a good atmosphere. They fulfill the tasks. They do crazy stuff, and they won't forget it, as we soon learned from the beta tests. Because the funny thing is, some really interesting stuff started to happen around the beta tests. Because some of the teams like didn't get the game at all. They would like, haha, like party game. But some of the other teams, they were really interesting. For example, there were like these 4 strangers. We picked the beta testers from like a public ad, and they didn't know each other, and they played the game, and they went for a beer after. They became really good friends through what happened in the game. Or there were some other times where people actually left the beta test because of some of the stuff that had happened. And I don't want to spoil it, but I think we've actually managed to create the first game of its own genre, so to say. So yeah, we moved on. And then the next year, a disaster struck. So why do we see Obama and Biden? Because, and I don't want to get political or anything, but back in the day, I remember that there was like a lot of funny memes with Obama and Biden leaving the White House and everything, and that they were really good friends. So I would say that the year 2017 was the hardest, at least for me personally. Sometimes people ask like, what was the hardest thing about the game? Like, maybe this was one of those things, because we actually had to part ways with Michal, which was like really sad. It was really hard, but it was also very much necessary. So we all wanted to like create our own different versions of the games. Like we had like very different ideas. Like I want to bring a lot more people into the team. Michal wanted to keep the team smaller and things like that. And we needed to do something, unless you wanted the game to just, crash and burn and be forgotten like a lot of other interesting projects. So we parted ways, just like Obama and Biden has finished their stay in the White House for the time. But we remained friends, just as they did. So yeah, that was 2017 for us. It was hard, but we made it. We made it through. And in 2018, we got our logo. We finally got the visual part of the game down. So the idea behind the logo was that it should somehow first incorporate the SCP design, right? So there was the SCP logo shape around the 19. Next, why is there like an arrow? Well, because on the maps, like on Google Maps or whatever, whenever you search for a place, you have this arrow kind of thing pointed down. So it was one of the ways how to say Site 19, like this is the place, like escape from Site 19 from the actual point somewhere. So the actual design might remind some people of the Walking Dead meme, like don't dead open inside. But we were actually really satisfied with the logo, and yeah, the team had started growing. We got many very skilled people on board, like Petr Pospíšil, our main web designer, I think also Karolína Majorová, and Anička. And yeah, the team has really started to grow, and so did the game. 2019 was a very good year because we finally started to, getting to the finished product, right? So what you see on the left was actually one of our beta testers who had liked the game so much that he actually tattooed our website URL onto his leg. But yeah, it was amazing. And we started to beta test a lot. We had maybe like over 100 beta tests in total. We optimized the game, we changed the game mechanics, we listened to the feedback of the players. We've got like a survey if the players would like a deluxe edition or a normal edition. And yeah, the game components were finished. Actually, the box design was made by a local talented group of designers called Studio Voila, who had come up with the idea about the black tube for the game and not like a regular tabletop box. So yeah, a lot of very different designers and artists chimed in. The game became better and better, and finally there was 2020. All the photos were finished. We have shot over 400 photographs for the cards. Well, some of them were photo montages made by Kaya, of course, but they are were real. What you can see is one of the sessions with models, makeup artists, and photographers. This is Kumiho SCP-953, I think. I think it's called like polymorphic humanoid on the wiki. And yeah, we finished all the photos. It was hard, but it was worth it. And the game was released. And yeah, we got to 2020. We've got over 500. Not over, but we had almost 500 games sold. It's shipped all over the world, and I guess our dream came true. And I want to thank all of our fans and you for supporting us through this journey, because if there wasn't the interest from you, then we wouldn't have made the game. So even though it was really hard, it was also very rewarding in it that the first board game from the SCP universe was made, and that the community actually enjoyed it. A lot of very talented YouTubers like SCP Illustrated, Bioflay, Dr. Ferdinand, Kate Winter, and many more has helped us with this, because otherwise we wouldn't have been visible. So a very big shout out goes to them too, because they've done a tremendous job. So yeah, thanks a lot. Now, what does the future hold? Like, is this the end? Like, is this all? Like, we just finish the game and go? Well, of course not. There's a lot of things that we have planned, that we have figured out throughout the years of how the game should go. Beginning with like extra components, with extra promotional cards, with maybe expansions, and a lot of stuff that I don't really want to talk about, but I don't know. Watch the SCP-001 slot in the future, maybe. I would like to thank you for your attention, and yeah, let's have some questions, comments, ideas, remarks, and yeah, thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you for talking about the game, Kamil. I know that some of the members of the team have prepared maybe some stories or some behind the scenes information regarding the game. So maybe Anička, would you like to begin, or is there something more you'd like to share?
Sure, Julia, thank you. let me share my screen. Okay. My God, what is happening now? I'm sorry, are you guys able to see my screen at all?
Yes.
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right, cool. So first, before I move on to the actual screen, I would like to first talk a little bit about how I actually came into contact with the game, because before I met Kamil and the team, I had no idea what are SCPs. I had no idea that there was a SCP wiki, all of this stuff. I didn't know it at all. So at first, I found Kamil's art in a Prague board game group looking for beta testers. That was back in 2016. And I figured, okay, why not? I have some time. I can go play a board game. Cool. So I went, and ever since then, I have been hooked to the whole universe, to the whole idea of, you know, all these kind of different things existing in our normal life, in our normal world. And most of all, most importantly, I was excited about the idea that we may never know, maybe it's all real, right? And you will never be able to tell, no, it's not. So basically since then, every time I joined a beta test, I was asking Kamil, all right, so when is this game going to be finished? I want to play it, I want to buy it, you know, when are you going to release it? And every time Kamil responded, oh, well, let's see, maybe at the end of the year. So after a couple of years listening to these responses, he offered me a job, so I found it as a chance to make it faster. That was my main point why I really joined the team, to be able to, you know, finish this game and to be able to play it with my friends and with all of those people, and of course also for all of you guys to enable you to play it, because it's amazing. So let me tell you a bit about how we are actually creating the ideas. So at the beginning of each of the task cards, we had two lists. We had one list of SCPs and one list of some kind of ideas for tasks. And I'm not sure if maybe it's too small, but never mind. So basically we had this list of SCPs where each of the SCPs from the first two series was there. Some of them were marked as, you know, maybe more important to have in the game based on their popularity, or also based on the fact that we like them within the team. And then we also had a list of task ideas, which were some of them focused around the food that you have to have with you in the game. Some of them were focused around the candle, which is also part of the game. Some of them were focused on certain, you know, mental aspects, like talking about very different topics, you know, saying ugly, different, difficult, hard stuff to the people. And some of them also focused around the physical challenges, for example. So basically what we had to do at the beginning of creating each of those task cards was to put those two things together. So there was two things which really helped us: the SCP Wi-Fi and the Wayback Machine. Because you saw in Kamil's presentation how long this whole development took, right? So in the meanwhile, maybe some of those SCPs which we were already, you know, creating the tasks for, maybe some of those were already replaced, or the article was completely rewritten, or something else happened, and the author of that SCP decided to pull it down from the site. So really, when we were trying to find the information, sometimes we really had to dig a lot. And the Wayback Machine helped with that. And in the SCP Wi-Fi, I have to tell you guys, in the 3 years more or less I'm working with Kamil and the team, I think I read through all of the SCPs in the first two series multiple times.
Puggers.
So big time consumer, but at the same time, I mean, it was so much fun that sometimes I wasn't even creating tasks, and Kamil was telling me, you know, you have to do this a little bit faster, we are waiting on you, But I was just stuck reading the Wi-Fi. So once we get the details of each of those SCPs from the wiki, we get the whole story. You know, we understand a little bit what is the flavor about, what kind of stuff this specific SCP does. We move on to our beautiful Jira, which was the main development tool, And in here, we have a task for each specific SCP. So basically, what you can see now on the screen is a list of some tasks, and in the middle of the screen, you can see one specific task card. So you can see that there are some attributes, there is some text, there is some description, there is some kind of story about the card, and there is also multiple pictures, which were sometimes coming from multiple photo shoots, because maybe the first time the picture was not so good, so the guys went and they redid it and they came with some new idea how to do a better picture which would fit nicer with the story and so on. So all of this was taking, really long time to come to a final conclusion that yes, this one card is ready. And SCP-1730, which you can see right now on the screen, is actually my most favorite SCP from the first two series. So that's why I picked this screenshot specifically. And once all of this was complete, we come to the final task cards. So you can see here on the pictures, those are the final task cards from the last beta tests, I believe. So this is the version 0.9. So almost the same as you can see now if you already have the game with you. And I mean, it was a journey. It was really a years-long journey. And I have to say, I am very happy that I was able to contribute to this team, because I feel that we created something really amazing. I can tell you guys, as soon as the pre-orders launched, I already had my pre-order in. So right now I'm already able to hug my SCP EFS19 box, and I am able to look at the cards whenever I want. This is the best reward I could get. So very, very happy that we were able to come to this point. And I hope you guys will be able to enjoy the game as much as we do.
Thank you, Anička. That was really, really nicely said and really nicely prepared. So thank you so much. It looks like you put a lot of effort in it. So Leonard, is there anything you'd like to say on your part, like add a story, like from the times you were in Prague, or show us?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I won't have much to show, unfortunately, because I lost access to my external hard drive, so I don't have access right now to the brushes and the photos I took back then. Yeah, but I can still tell how I joined the team and I got to work on the EFS19. So as I said, I used to be up until 2018 a member of the administration of the French branch of the SCP Foundation. At that time, I had been on board for, I think, 5 years, if I recall correctly. I had discovered the SCP Foundation back in 2014. I think it was I came across a video of a French YouTuber where he was playing the SCP-087 game, and it just struck me I was barely getting into creepypasta and internet horror, and it really got to me, and that's how I discovered the wiki. I spent days going through the articles on the main branch, and that's when I discovered there were actually translation branches. And so I wasn't 15 yet, but as soon as my birthday came up, I joined the French site, and yeah, I remained active for around 4 years until 2018. Thing is, in the meantime, I graduated from high school, and I got into game design and game art school, where I still am right now. I'm still finishing my degree. And after, at the end of my second year, I had to do an internship, to gain experience, to try and work in the industry, and yeah, just get used to working with a team and on an actual project. And so at that time, I didn't really know where to look. I didn't really have any contact or any network in the video game industry, because my goal is to work in the video game industry. I'm a game artist. And then I recall from my time as the administrator from the French branch, this project that was going on. Those guys in Czech Republic were trying to adapt the SCP universe into a board game. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I've been following the project for some time. I've been following on Instagram, on Twitter, the photos you guys were posting of the photo shoots for the cards. And so I thought, okay, that's interesting. Like, let's give it a shot. Let's contact them on Facebook. And I sent a message on Facebook, and it was Kamil who answered, if I recall correctly. And we were like yeah, I was like, okay, so hello guys, like I'm a game art student from France. I'm also a member of the French Wiki. I'm looking for an internship. Do you mind if we like talk and discuss and see what we can do? And like they were super open to having me on board. Because apart from being a game artist and having like some background in the SP Foundation, I have a degree in cinematography and film production, and they were really interested to have someone that could take care of producing promotional content for the marketing campaign of the game. And we agreed that I would come over and try to produce trailers and behind-the-scenes content for the game. And that's how I came to go to Prague. So I stayed for 2 months in the summer of 2019, from June to early August. And I right away got to work. And so we agreed that I should start with the production of the promotional video, the trailer you guys might have shown, like the 15-minute videos that's on the YouTube channel. It's called it's the recovered footage that's on YouTube. And I was supposed also to film interviews of the team, to put together small the bits you have seen on Instagram and on YouTube. So I started writing because I am especially a fan of horror films, especially found footage film, and so I decided to film it as a found footage film. It took me around a good month, a whole month to write the script, and in the meantime, we looked for actors to play and a place to shoot it. Actually, I saw Anna show the pictures from the cards of SCP-1730. Those pictures were shot in the same place we shot the video. It was an abandoned barracks and right outside of Prague. And we shot for 2 nights there. As most shootings go, those were really difficult. Wasn't easy to get the footage we needed for the films. Because we had some misunderstandings with the actors, and it was night shootings also, so always complicated. But we managed to get what we wanted. And then I spent the rest of the internship like putting together the video. I'm quite proud of what we managed to do, especially with all the problems we had on set. And afterwards, so that brings us to August. The video is almost done, and that's when I'm supposed to go back to France, because my internship was lasting for only 2 months. And when I got back to France, actually, I stayed in contact with the team, and Kamil asked me if I'd wish to continue working for you guys. Well, not as a cinematographer anymore, obviously, because I wasn't able to stay in Prague, but just keep what I was already doing when I was in Prague, meaning doing consultant work for the artists and the writers of the game, just to make sure the game and the cards and the tasks were in line with the themes and the mood of the SCP universe. And since I wrote a few SCP articles in my time, I could keep helping, and that's what I did for an entire year, I think, up until last summer. Yeah, I think so. And so that's basically what I did on the game, on the project. So I've stopped working for the game for some time now, and all in all, it was really an amazing experience. It's a shame, actually. I can show you the pictures I took back then, because I was always with my camera trying to get some behind the scenes footage. But I really keep very fond memories of my time in Prague. It was really awesome being able to actually start my career in games that way, because again, I came from France all the way to a country in which I've never been. I didn't even speak the language. So it was an adventure, and I really keep good memories of it. I think that's all.
Okay, thanks so much for having talked to us. I think it was really interesting and original. So next up is Petr Ondráček. Petr, would you like to add anything or say anything more?
Yeah, I was listening carefully to what was Anna saying, and it surprised me actually that we have a totally, not totally, but a slightly different approach to make the cards or to create the game, because it's well, actually it comes from my background, because I am a mathematician originally, or a biomathematician, application to biology. And I was always curious about all these fantasy and sci-fi movies and fantasy books. And what was always really getting on my nerves was how they actually placed these monsters next to each other. So, for example, there might be a book or a game that places giants next to the traps filled with vicious, hungry spiders. And my question is, if that's the case, and you're in a dungeon where there is a room full of giants, and next to it is a room full of trapped spiders, how on earth they are going to last there before somebody comes and kills them off? It's like, how can they survive? How can they feed on each other? Shouldn't the trapped spiders die out of starvation? Or what about the giants just opening the door and stamp over the spiders? So I always thought like one step in the kind of logical of the whole universe, not just this player-centric or hero-centric approach of the book or the writer. And it always was getting on my nerves when I saw these kind of illogical things in the books or in the movies. And then, well, I met Kamil, who was talking about some interesting horror board game or a game. And yeah, I had no idea what SCP Universe is about, and I said, well, it's interesting. It's made me curious, so I searched for the wiki, and I found really that most of the documents there are really, they can stand up for this logic. They are logical. They don't contradict each other. They have this nice. Feeling, as you mentioned, that it can be almost real, and you can imagine that such a event or anomaly actually exists around us. So I found this really intriguing, and it got me back to my most favorite sci-fi book ever, which is Roadside Picnic. If you don't know about it, I recommend you to read it. It's really pretty much also SCP. Anyway, so I got really enthusiastic about building the game rules so that I don't violate this logic or the inner logic of the universe, and I don't, make something that's interesting but has nothing to do with the original ideas or about which are in this universe. So that makes a lot of these cards quite challenging, because we had on one side really interesting SCP, and on the other side really interesting task to perform. But then I thought, like, maybe they don't have anything to do with each other. They cannot be put to self like, okay, I know the SCP, and now the task is irrelevant to the SCP or something like that. So this was quite challenging to really put it together so you can recognize from the task you're making the original SCP and vice versa. And I hope that we managed to actually achieve this after proofreading by Leonard and Sam and others. So that's something I am really proud of, that we performed. And second thing was that there are some kind of generic approaches when you're game designing, and not just board games, but also computer games. How to design a mechanics that's pushing the player towards some of your goal. You want, for example, the player to use more of his role-playing skills, and how to make it such that it doesn't, make him angry, or he's willing to participate in this your trend. So these kind of game mechanics that promote some of the sides of playing this game. It was also one interesting side for working on this project. And I think there were some cards that were my nightmare in a sense, because I remade them several times, maybe even 10 times or so. And that was also quite interesting to then step back, throw everything to the trash bin and rethink it again. And always when I did that, I returned back to the SCP wiki to read again about the original SCP that we were trying to describe. And then I often came out with a totally new task that is very more promoting the card than the task we were thinking about. So it was quite also interesting part of this when you had already a task in your head stuck totally with this card, and then you said no, let's throw it out and let's make it again better. So this is interesting part of making game design in general, and I really enjoyed this. It was my vacation from my main work, because that was always relaxing over Jira in the night to think about SCP, and that was a pretty awesome way of relaxation. So thanks, Kamil, for giving me this opportunity. Yeah, that's it basically.
Yeah, thank you, Petr, so much for talking to us. Kryštof, you're next in line, so if you want to add anything, it's your time now.
Thank you. I prepared a short presentation. Do you guys see it right now? Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. I joined the team back in 2018, I hope, and it was one of my first jobs in graphic design, and it was quite funny because I just reacted to some job offer on Facebook, and but the thing that I could, the idea that I can work on a board game was extremely interesting for me, because I'm really like board games and PC games, so it was great, and I'm really like that this is my whole life, because when I do normal graphic stuff like logo design or making print materials and so on, it's just a thing, but this is something more. So now I want to tell you something about how the pictures for the game was made. So photographic sessions when we took some photos, but if we want to make all of the cards in photography sessions, it was impossible to make it. So me and Karol a little bit, and do it in our with our conditions. So a lot of pictures from me was made at my house or in my neighborhood and so on. So this is, for example, my hand, and then just I've put these two photos into Photoshop and edited it just like that, and I think it's pretty good. Then sometimes I wanted like I wanted this to look like it's a real laptop in your room. So I found this image of this Dell laptop on some eShop and used it. And then I used my old computer with Windows XP to print screen and just bring these pictures to Photoshop and edit it with this illustration, which I also made. Then because making it wasn't Illustrator SC, but sometimes it was just impossible to make it because it would be so expensive or just too hard to manipulate with these photos in Photoshop. After some time, when I was working in this team, I realized why I don't use 3D models, because 3D models can be pretty strong. In that time, I just started to learning with 3D graphics programs, and it's a shame that this idea that I didn't have this idea earlier. We'll have better pictures, but for me, for me working with the 3D models was really fun, and I really liked to use them in these pictures. The best way how I made the pictures was in the studio, because back in 2019 and 2018 I was in high school, and I was studying multimedia, and we have photographic studio place where they took photos, because when you have two photos, they usually don't come together very well because of the light. When you took a photo in the morning, it's completely different when you took a photo in the afternoon. This problem disappeared because you can choose direction and the strength of the light, and you can do really great scenes. And I was really glad that at that time I was able to use our school. I don't have access to any studio, So that was great, and for me this is my best picture of the whole game from me. And these two guys are my schoolmates from high school. So at last but not least, I would like to talk about the importance of feedback, because there are more graphic designers than just me, and when I did something, I downloaded the Jira, as Anička said, and then we talk about how we could improve it, because if it was only on me, I would be good with this first version, but after the feedback, we make the final product. So it's really great that our team is pretty big, and we have great people there, which could help, and we could help together. So that's everything from me, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Kryštof. Thank you so much for preparing this. So Sam, would you like to also add something, or say, for example, what your role on the team is?
Yeah, I can say something that maybe connects the two, which is maybe just something about the dedication and perfectionism that went into putting this game together in the 9 months I was there, let alone whatever happened in the 6 years before I was involved. And I think part of the job of a proofreader is to be a pain in the ass. You got to just be worrying about every last detail, commas, words. It's like, you know, if somebody doesn't care, you know very quickly. And Kamil, Anna as well, they didn't let anything go. Like, it was just absolutely had to be right from the beginning, basically. And I got this sense, actually, the first time I spoke to Kamil, because I just replied to something saying we're looking for a proofreader. And your first thought is, it's a job, so great. You don't know what you're necessarily getting into. And a lot of the jobs that you do as a proofreader are pretty shitty and soulless, to be honest, like big corporate things where you're writing stuff about a Hyundai or something that you just don't care about. And with about 10 minutes of speaking or hearing Kamil talk about this project, you knew that it was a passion project. It was a fan making something for fans. And it actually meant something, and that switches something in your brain. You just instantly think, well, I've got to do justice to this. So for me, knowing nothing about the SCP Foundation, literally never having heard about it, it was then basically Kamil sent me like SCP-173, and I think for me the turning point was, I'm going to get the numbers wrong probably, I think it's SCP-87, the stairwell maybe. And there's a big turning point for me, because it reminded me of a fantastic book I'd read called House of Leaves by a guy called Mark Danielewski, which is this weird thing about a stairwell. But it's sort of this one SCP file introduced the D class to me, which is just such a fascinating thing that brings up all the ambiguity of the Foundation. You know, are they good? Are they bad? They're using political prisoners and pushing them down stairwells in front. So this opened up this whole world to me, and from then on in, that importance of getting things just right, connected to the files, let alone whether we use the word player or team member. And I guarantee, I mean, that was about 2 weeks worth of, maybe more, like messages at 6 o'clock in the morning and 12 o'clock at night about whether we use team member or player. That's the level of detail that went into what was the right thing to make this consistent, concise, clear, and true, like real, connected to this thing that mattered, sort of sharing this love of the project. So yeah, I think I have one specific memory, and it's an incredibly small thing. I mean, in some ways, I ended up reading not quite as many files as Anna did, but certainly every file that was part of one of the cards. So that's over 400 files, just to try to make sure if there's any more meaning I could squeeze out of some of these texts. And there's one that sticks in my mind, and again, might get the number wrong, but I think it's a 0055, which I think is called Unknown, and I think it's basically about just a humanoid that you see, and you instantly forget everything about him. And there was a really complex task linked to this, which was about remembering, but there was about 3 different points, and I sort of wrote something or edited something for Kamil, and he was like, no, you've not got this one thing right, but this isn't in. I was like, okay. Changed it again, it went back to him again, no, we're now missing something else. And just as Petr said, about maybe 10 times doing a card, I don't even know how long this went on for. I was literally tearing out my hair thinking, what does he want? It's done, isn't it? It was, God, please, you know, and that was the level of importance there was about this thing. And finally, we totally changed the idea and went with something that was just a voice thing. And in the end, for me, it sums up the experience of working on the game, which was just for one card that you might have to play the game 10 times to even draw. There's that many cards. That level of attention just about this one text, let alone the pictures that have been designed and everything like this, that level of detail that went into just getting that. So it not only reflected the wiki, but it connected to the task, and it was short enough and it was nicely written enough. So I guess that's would be my enduring memory of my experience of working on the writing aspect of this game.
Okay, thank you so much, Sam, for talking. So Karolina, it's your turn now. Once again, just like it was in the beginning, Karolina will be talking in Czech, and I'll just really quickly translate that into English. Kaja, můžeš.
Dobře, takže ten vlastně proces výroby nebo tvorby těch obrázků už popsal poměrně podrobně Kryštof, takže já přidám už jen takové drobnosti.
So the process, Karolina will be talking about the process of creation of the graphic images, and as most of the technique was already described by Kryštof, she will be like adding a few of her own observations.
Takže většinou se začínalo tím, že jsem si přečetla ten dokument u konkrétního SCPčka, příběh té karty, a na základě tohohle se zpracovala skica.
So the first step was that I always read the document of the SCP file, and based on that file, like a sort of a sketch is created.
A na základě, nebo ta skica pak vlastně prošla tím schvalovacím kolečkem různých lidí v týmu, a na základě teda vybraný skice pak vznikla první varianta toho obrázku.
So this sketch then took a turn around the whole team, all the members who took part in the approval process, and then after this happened, we could continue to edit the picture and create it.
Takže každý obrázek měl vlastně několik verzí a tenhle postup se opakoval až do té doby, dokud všichni nebyli spokojeni. Takže vlastně každá ta ilustrace je prací celého týmu a není to jenom vlastně naše jednotlivá představa o té podobě té ilustrace.
So every illustration was only used once everyone was satisfied with it. So each illustration is like the work of the whole team, not just me.
Můžu ukázat nějaký teda ukázky těch obrázků.
So I will show some of my favorite works now. Sharing the screen.
Teď to nějak nejde.
Jde ti sdílet obrazovka?
No, právě, že mě to tady trochu zlobí. Nevím, jestli vidíte.
Yeah, we can see your screen. Vidíme tvůj obrazovku.
Jo. Takže tady je třeba ta prvotní skica. A tady pak vlastně výsledek.
Sdílíš jinou obrazovku, než kterou...
Aha. Tak ale já nevím, co s tím.
Ach jo. To je dobrý, tak povídej o těch obrázcích.
Dobře. Bych to ráda teda aspoň vypla, ale nevím jak, nejde mi to. Zlobí to. Mám tak. No nic. Takže tím pádem teda nemám k konkrétním věcem, ale vybrala jsem si pár karet, které teda pro mě jakoby v rámci té práce byly nějakým způsobem důležitý, nebo mě nějak zasáhly víc.
Okay, I would still like to talk about some of the cards that were most impactful for me.
První jsem vybrala kartu SCP 1186. As the first card, I chose SCP 1186. Což byla vlastně první karta, kterou jsem dělala pro tu hru.
Which was the first card that I ever made for this game.
A jakož jsem vlastně do té doby vůbec neznala ten svět těch SCPček a vůbec jsem vlastně netušila, o co běží. Tak jo, díky. Tak to pro mě bylo takový vůbec jako seznámení s tím tématem, s tím, co vlastně vůbec budu dělat. Možná lehce šokující.
Because this was like the first time that I ever worked with like an SCP topic, and it was like sort of surprising and shocking.
Vlastně na tomhle obrázku jsem se vůbec učila, jak jakoby pojmout tvorbu ilustrací k tomu projektu.
And basically on this picture I learned how to approach this topic and the whole project.
Tak, další obrázek pro mě takovej důležitý byl asi Strážce.
The next picture that was really significant for me was The Guardian.
To bylo proto, že to byla vlastně první taková náročnější karta, na který jsem se asi zasekla s tou tvorbou a dost dlouho jsem o něm přemýšlela, jak vlastně ho vytvořit, uchopit a proměnit do nějaký jako formy, která bude odpovídající a vhodná. No.
Because I spent quite a lot of time wondering how to depict this creature and how to like picture it in a way that would be fitting and suitable to its characteristic.
A další je třeba tvorba postavy doktora Patose, kde jsem se snažila, nebo řekni podle.
And the next one is Dr. Patos. Let's see the picture.
Kde vlastně byla vtipná vůbec ta příprava na vyfocení téhle fotky, když jsem se snažila svýho hyperaktivního psa oblečenýho do obleku s brejlema vyfotit a absolutně nespolupracovala. Takže to bylo docela náročný, nicméně nakonec se to podařilo.
Because this was actually my hyperactive dog who I dressed up in a suit and tried to take a picture of him. So it took quite a lot of time to like make him obedient and let me try to take a picture of him in this position.
No a to je tak jakoby všechno k těm konkrétním obrázkům, ale chci říct ještě, že vlastně každý ten obrázek měl svůj specifický vývoj, svůj nějaký příběh té tvorby a až na pár jakoby obrázků si vlastně pamatuju téměř všechny, co jsem tam jakoby dělala, nebo u každého se vždycky vzpomenu, kde bylo třeba nějaký úskalí nebo něco, co nebylo tak.
Yeah, I've worked on a lot of pictures for this game, and with each and every one of them I have like a special memory. Whenever I see the picture, I remember like the creation process, how I worked on it, and if any complication or problem came up.
Díky.
Thank you. Okay, tak děkujem Kájo za tvoji prezentaci. Okay, so that was all of us. So basically this was like basically the main part, and now we've got some questions in the chat. So let's go through the questions now. You can while we are here, if you've got like any more questions or anything that comes to your mind, you can just still ask in the chat about the game. So the first questions are from Jakub Mrożowski. So he's asking, are we like thinking about our game as an SCP in the game? Like, are we considering our game to be an SCP? So maybe this could be a question for Kamil.
All right. So I don't want to make any spoilers or do any foreshadowing, other than I already did. But I want to say that there's something very interesting in the works that might appear in a few months' time. And it actually involves our game being somewhat of an SCP, and a very significant one. And it's also a project that we're working on for several months. So we definitely hope to finish it soon so we can share it with you. But yeah, I think like giving anything else out than I've already said would be spoiling it too much. So
it's classified.
It's data expunged. It's redacted. It's
okay. Okay, cool. So there's another question. Do you have something like vegetation time when you don't have an idea what to create or what to do next? This could be a good question for I don't really mind for either Petr Ondráček or Kryštof. Could one of you answer this one?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Petr.
I thought go ahead, Kryštof. Okay. Anyway, yeah, for sure. I mean, most of the time we have cabbage in our heads, and we are concentrating on not to step into the road when the car is passing. But at some, it goes up and down. It's just that you have some time when you have no idea whatsoever, and you're just reading through the wiki and you're reading through what you wrote, and it doesn't make sense to you. For that, I have my dog, so I take him out, and then when I'm refreshed, sometimes the sparkle comes in, and I write several paragraphs in one go, and then I read it after me, and I said I have no idea what I meant, and then I pass it to Kamil, and he doesn't understand it, and then to Anna, she doesn't understand it, and we iterate. It's actually most of the time there's nothing like a genius idea. It's just simple idea that's being worked on by the others, and it returns back to you as something totally else, and then you work on it again, and this is kind of going on until we either lose our patience and throw it in the bin, or we are very happy about it, and it's always something different that started. Most of the time it's something different that we started on. So it's I would say more. It's not like hitting the nail exactly on the first try. It's more like iteration. Certainly, because we are three of us and we all come from different areas, so we have all different idea or approach to those tasks and to the wiki. So it's often that I don't know. So I come out with something, then Anna tries it out, like the task, and she says this it's nonsense. It can't be done. And then Kamil says, well, maybe we can do it differently, and then so on. It goes like this, and then we come out with something which Sam denies as being totally not possible to translate into English, and that's how the process goes, I guess.
Yeah, thank you so much. There is another question from one of the authors of the Italian the Italian branch. So thank you for the question. And he's asking, I was wondering, are there going to be in the future any SCPs from other SCP branches, such as like from the Italian or the Portugal, Japanese, French branch? Like, are we planning to incorporate maybe in some future games any of the SCPs from these branches? I think this is a question for you, Kamil.
Okay, so we're not as knowledgeable about the other branches of the SCP wiki to make like an informed decision, like, okay, we will and we won't. But you might have already known that there's a translation war going on, that we would like to translate the game into several languages so that our international players actually enjoy it in their mother tongue. So maybe, and I'm saying maybe that would be a good opportunity to create, let's say, a promotional card from a set branch for which the translation will go. But that's just some ideas I'm throwing around. The point is, if a good opportunity comes around, I don't see a problem with using some of the SCPs from the other branches.
Okay, thank you, Kamil. Now there's another question. It says, what was the biggest challenge while you were translating game tasks from their Czech versions? So I think this could be a question for Sam, if you don't mind.
I'd love to say I did translate them, but unfortunately my Czech allows me to pick a fight in a pub, and that's it. And I have to order a beer and swear at someone. So I mean, I certainly didn't translate, but luckily I had some the whole game translated for me to fiddle around with. But I guess that the main challenge, and it's slightly different with two, obviously on the cards. Okay, I think me being an idiot about the SCP world helped when writing the manual, because I didn't understand it. So I needed to understand it for it to be put to someone else who didn't understand it. So that was actually, in some ways, I just followed my stupidity, and that helps take me through that. In terms of the cards, there's 2 points really, which is the flavor text, something that tells something about the SCP, and there was the task. And in terms of making sure that the perfectly sculpted Czech version worked in English, it was just making sure that the words were consistent. So it's time consuming, but really it was just about making sure that the language matched the language on other cards, and so that there was no chance for there being a loophole that a player could cut a corner if they didn't want to play it in a certain way. So again, that speaks a bit to the perfectionism of making sure this game is played absolutely properly. I guess about the flavor text, just very quickly, the main task was, the main challenge and the exciting challenge was that they took on 3 different styles. One was a log, which sort of represented the scientific language of the wiki file. One was an encounter, which is supposed to represent the player encountering something in the moment, the RPG element. And then one was a citation where it was a quote from somebody linked to it. So that element was just, again, it was just about getting things stylistically right. But that was the joy, to write a 50-word short story based on a wiki that might be 10,000 words long and get that sense that is gonna, like, fans of the game are gonna think instantly they know what this is. This is gonna give them like little Easter eggs, little hints, little in-jokes, but also the fans of this game might be playing this game with someone who knows nothing about it. So it was important that it also sort of described what this SCP was about for people like me at the start that didn't know anything about it, and they could still enjoy the game.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Thank you for your answer. Well, another question is which SCP-001 is your favorite regarding the pictures? So maybe Kryštof, could you please take this question? Which of the SCP-001s is your favorite?
I must say I don't remember these cards. So maybe I'm not the good person to answer this because you know, I don't know much about which picture is for which card. So maybe someone else would, maybe Leonard will be able to answer it better than me.
Leonard, would you like to answer it instead of Kryštof?
He's not here.
Oh, he disappeared.
Yeah, we lost him.
Okay, no problem. So Kryštof, can you just tell us, for example, which picture that you've been working on is your like all-time favorite?
As I already said in my short presentation, I can share screen again. Okay. It's this one, and you know, I don't know much about the SCP world, so it's just about how good is the image for me. If it's if I'm proud of it. Like on this, because I think this looks so real, and also for example I have just a few they were all in my presentation. This one looks pretty fine, and maybe I just find some more images, and then I can show it to you. Just give me a few minutes, maybe. So
yeah,
okay,
maybe I could chime in with like the most difficult 001 that we 001 picture that we worked on, and I think it was actually the 36 SCP-0001, because as all of you avid readers remember, 36 is about like a group of 36 persons that have the ability to actually maybe remove or grant SCP powers to various items or beings. So for this SCP, we wanted it to look like realistically and making sense in the context of the wiki. So for the 36 SCP-0001, we've actually photographed each one of our models with like a mugshot photograph of sorts, and we have included them as these 36 personas that are able to give or remove SCP abilities. So this took a lot of time and a lot of remembering, like, okay, so after you shoot this guy, let's just shoot a mugshot of him so we can include it in the 36 SCP. So here you can see the result. And as for the other pictures, I would say that we're all pretty basic, but I think Kaya might have might tell you a sentence or two about the prototype Kaya, if you would.
Kajo, můžeš prosím tě, já ti to budu překládat.
Jasně. Já úplně nevím, co.
Well, we had an issue with identifying how to depict the SCP-001 prototype, because we want to depict it as realistically as possible, and also with a suitable picture. So how it was created, or maybe the story with the Gate Guardian, that's also a very interesting one.
Kamil chce, abys de facto popsala proces, jak vyobrazy, nebo jak jste vybírali vyobrazení Gate Guardian a prototypa těchto dvou SCP-1.
Mm-hmm. Tak můžeme začít s tím, asi s tím strážcem.
Okay, so we'll begin with the Gate Guardian, the creation process of the Gate Guardian.
Tam vlastně bylo několik že variant. Asi bylo jasný, že to bude nějaká zářící postava s křídlama, ale to zobrazení vlastně mělo ze začátku mnoho podob.
So it was clear from the beginning that the depiction would be in the form of a glowing figure with wings, but it had in our minds it had a lot of appearances at first.
Byla teda nějaká původní varianta s křídlama, která ale nepůsobila dostatečně realisticky. A pak úplnou jako nějakou shodou náhod jsem narazila na takovou můru brouka, který má vlastně, no, řekni.
So literally by coincidence, I came up with the picture of a moth or an insect sort of creature, which was the base for this picture.
A která vlastně, když jsem úplnou náhodou jsem na ní narazila a když jsem ji viděla, tak jsem si vlastně říkala, to je úplně přesně strážce. Takže nakonec ty křídla jsou vlastně použitý z reálné můry, která teda existuje
So the wings of the Guardian are actually real moth wings. The wings of the moth that I coincidentally found the picture somewhere, and I just thought that this is definitely a good base for the Guardian. So yeah, the wings are from that picture, and that's how the Guardian was created.
No, to je asi všechno ke strážci.
Now let's go to the prototype.
Tady vlastně byl základní problém vůbec zobrazení nějakého toho monstra, kde jsme nechtěli jít úplně do nějakých konkrétních vyobrazení, protože za první by to bylo těžké to udělat a za druhý by se to nemuselo ani povíst takovým způsobem, aby to bylo prostě věrohodný.
So in this case, the problem to start off with was that we couldn't really picture anything in particular. So it had to be really not picturing even a real character or a real monster. So this was a tricky thing to figure out by itself.
Takže základem vlastně byla takováhle neurčitá fotka postavy, kterou jsme jenom si dotvořili pro naše potřeby, aby to splňovalo nějaký parametry určitého monstra.
So we basically just found a picture of a figure that was blurry and in the fog, and we added some elements to it so that it would suit our needs, and yeah, so that was it. Ještě něco chceš dodat, Kájo?
To asi všechno.
Okay. Okay, so I think that I'm not sure, but I feel like Kamil is back. Amazing. Hi again, Kamil. I've got some more questions for you because I think there are some that you could answer best. There's the author of the Italian wiki asking a question. Are there going to be also J SCPs?
Okay,
Kamil.
so like the joke SCPs. Okay, so one of the struggles that we had during the game development was to not make the game funny. Like we had a lot of tasks that were simply like, just for the laughs. For example, SCP-1545, Larry the loving llama or something, and it had like a very silly task, like the players had to form a llama and it was eh. So this wasn't the atmosphere that we were going for, so we were systematically removing these, blatantly funny tasks. We wanted to keep the suspense atmosphere for the players to build out. So no joke SCPs are considered to be added to the game. I'm not saying that might not change, but in general we see no reason why make a comedy game out of EFS19 while there's so many much better funny games that you can play. So no plans for adding SCPJs are considered right now.
Okay, thank you, Kamil. And there is one more question that I think we could answer because we've kind of run out of time by now, but I don't want to leave it unanswered. There is one more question saying, are you thinking about creating some SCPs specifically for your game? Basically, I think we partially answered this already. We haven't, all the SCPs that are in the game were taken from the SCP wiki. There are some ideas about creating an SCP-001, but like Kamil said, we will not be spoiling that too much before it comes out. Okay. Well, I think that these are about more or less the questions which we picked out from the chat. So I don't know if any of the panelists would like to add anything or talk about any other topic. Are there any desired topics or any desired facts to add yet before we wrap it up? I think we've all talked enough. So, okay, I guess that that's it for the conference. So thank you for all of those who have stuck with us until now. We are deeply honored. And thank you so much also for having asked all these questions in the chat. We hope we didn't bore you too much. And we wish you a beautiful Christmas time, a lot of health, and like someone just wrote in the chat, also happy holidays, and stay safe because these times are wicked, so we all need to take care of ourselves. So thank you for whether you've already bought the game or whether you're only considering whether to buy it or not. We hope you'll enjoy playing it, and we are glad that we could do this for you today. So good night or good day, depending on where you are. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.